I am seeking a divorce. I have discovered an individual who genuinely brings me joy, not merely a substitute, but a new beginning. I am a financial systems analyst at Orbis Union in Richmond, Virginia, and I am 45 years old. My name is Nathan Bell. I received that text while I was at my desk on Wednesday morning, conducting a thorough review of a client's fraud detection algorithms. Dana, my wife, was scheduled to attend a marketing conference in Dallas. She had stated that it would take 3 days. It was merely a routine business excursion. The telephone rang once more. I have already transferred the retirement funds to my private account. You are welcome to the house. I no longer require it. I paused, accessed my banking app, and verified the balances. There was an uneasiness, but it was not as she had anticipated. I responded with a mere 7 words. I trust that you are content. There is no dispute. Plead the fifth. A brief, uncomplicated farewell. I maintained my concentration on my work for the subsequent hour, monitoring the updates to line items in 3 distinct dashboard systems. Consolidated monitoring was implemented for each joint account, which I had independently developed. Emergency funds, retirement funds, and investments. Even the checking account that Dana believed was exclusively hers. She triggered numerous fraud detection protocols when she initiated those transfers. Emotions and marital status were irrelevant to the system. It witnessed the transfer of 6 figures without the necessary 2-party verification. The federal anti-fraud measures were implemented automatically. My phone was inundated with notifications by noon. Dana is not the source. From the institution that is receiving the funds. Account review has been initiated. Deposits have been frozen pending an investigation. I refrained from smiling. I refrained from commemorating the occasion. I have just closed the alerts and have returned to my task. I was required to attend to the financial security of another individual. Dana's telephone would soon begin to vibrate. When she attempted to access the funds, she would discover that her balance was 0. The system is not empathetic toward individuals who make poor decisions. I had acquired that knowledge by observing accounts halt during investigations into suspicious activity. Money is indifferent to timing, betrayal, or affection. It adheres to the regulations. Dana had just violated each and every one of them. We had been married for 22 years. Petersburg high school sweethearts. I had always been the person who was most adept at calculating. Strike rates for the baseball team are computed. Monitoring each penny of our senior class's fundraising endeavors. Dana was the social butterfly. All the qualities that a marketing professional should possess. Always networking, persuasive, and charming. She would remark, "You are excessively cautious with money." After I had meticulously reviewed our tax returns, I would respond, "Someone must be." It functioned for an extended period of time. While she pursued her career at Valerie Marketing Group, I managed our finances. She was frequently on the move. Workshops in Austin, seminars in Phoenix, constantly engaging in communication, invariably for the benefit of the organization. The indicators of impending danger appeared gradually, similar to the progressive dispersion of mist over water. She discontinued inquiries regarding retirement projections 6 months ago. 3 months ago, she initiated a credit card account without consulting me. She observed that our living room was excessively disorganized 2 weeks ago. Who even visits anymore? My sister had observed this during Thanksgiving. She appeared distant. It is simply work-related stress, I clarified. Dana, however, was calm. She was devising a strategy. I was responsible for the maintenance of our consolidated financial tracking system, which I had constructed in response to a failed audit at a client company that resulted in a loss of millions. She was also analyzing the system. She had identified the blind areas. However, my system was devoid of any blind areas. Each account was linked. Each transaction was monitored, not as a result of mistrust. However, this is due to habit. Years of experience in detecting client fraud attempts and comprehending the movement of money when individuals do not wish to have it monitored. She had demonstrated an unusual level of curiosity regarding our retirement balances on Tuesday evening, prior to her departure for Dallas. "What is the total amount?" she inquired during supper. "Approximately $800,000, I replied. "Why?" "I am merely inquisitive." That curiosity now made perfect sense. She had been formulating her exit strategy. I entertained the notion of contacting her mother, or her closest companion, Patricia. I also have my own parents. However, what would I say? "Your daughter attempted to seize all of our retirement funds, but was apprehended by fraud detection." It sounded absurd, similar to an episode of a soap opera. As an alternative, I prepared my own meal, observed the news. I reviewed the alerts once more. The transfers remained suspended. Before the funds could be released or returned, the fraud investigation would require 5 to 7 business days. Dana had bet on quickness in order to gain access to all of the information before I became aware of it. Prior to the system's convergence, she neglected the fact that I had never neglected a financial detail during our entire time together. The telephone rang at 11:30 a.m. on Friday. "Nathan." I recognized the tension in her voice from conference calls during which her presentations were unsuccessful. "My card is not functioning." Mild annoyance that is disguised as controlled hysteria. "What is your current balance?" "Zero." "How is it zero?" "I transferred." "Oh, that's interesting." Her exhalation was audible to me. Silence ensued. "What actions did you take?" "I did not take any action," I replied candidly. Unusual transfers from protected retirement accounts were detected by the fraud detection system. More silence. Federal regulations necessitate a review of substantial withdrawals that lack appropriate joint authorization. For how long? 5 to 7 business days. Maybe for an extended period of time if they encounter any complications. She terminated the conversation. I sat in my office and examined the fraud alerts. Consumed a taste of my coffee. Inside of me, a fundamental change had occurred. I am not angry. Not precisely betrayal. Simply clarification. I had safeguarded our financial future for 22 years. Conserved with great care. Prudently allocated funds. Developed systems to identify issues prior to their occurrence. The woman for whom I had performed all of this had resolved to seize everything and vanish. However, it was not the financial aspect that caused the most distress. Her betrayal was efficient. A text message. A transfer. Goodbye. Similar to concluding a commercial transaction. I retrieved our investment portfolio. Our retirement accounts were in situ in the absence of Dana's transfers. A property that was acquired for $300,000 5 years ago is now worth nearly $5 million. My modest securities are held in individual accounts. Our savings bonds. Everything was still present. While attending networking events, she was safeguarded by the protocols I established. On Friday afternoon, my phone displayed 23 texts from Dana. They were unread by me. What was the subject of the conversation? On Saturday, I met with a divorce attorney who was forthright and sympathetic. Create the file immediately. Ensure that all information is recorded. The financial misconduct that was attempted will be advantageous to you. On Monday morning, I submitted my paperwork. Simple documents. There are no petitions for alimony. Assets that are not affected are not divided. Divorce without a fight. My identity was retained as the owner of the property. I had not made any changes to our joint checking account. Allow it to remain with its $3,000 balance. Dana may be selected to fulfill that role. By Tuesday, the reality had become apparent. No, I was not the sort to seek revenge. I had never been. However, I was not naive either. The systems that I developed to safeguard our clients at Orbis Union had also safeguarded me. Marriage vows are of no consequence to banking algorithms. They are interested in patterns. Regarding authorization. Regarding conformance. Dana had inadvertently violated every rule in the belief that she was being cunning. I proceeded to my place of employment. I consumed my lunch at my workstation. Examined instances of fraud. The irony was not lost on me. The weekend arrived. Upon Dana's complaint, I conducted a thorough cleaning of the guest room. She donated her outdated books, photos that have been enclosed in boxes. Not as a result of rage. No, it was not rage. It was pragmatic. The way in which I had known existence had come to an end was unexpected with a simple text message. However, the systems that I had implemented were able to retain their effectiveness. Occasionally, the most effective strategies are those that one anticipates never to require. And occasionally, they rescue you without requiring any action. Patricia Martinez was retained by Dana as her attorney. Patricia and I were acquainted through neighborhood gatherings. The individual who consistently discusses legal remedies and loopholes. The individual who ensured that she had an exit strategy for every circumstance. They submitted a motion, alleging that I intentionally orchestrated the account suspension. The papers stated that your spouse employed his financial expertise to undermine marital assets. William Brooks, my attorney at West Hill Legal, and I convened. A former banker. He chuckled as he read the motion. They are pursuing misconduct? His cranium shook as he spoke. A bold strategy when the fraud alerts are automated system responses, not manual actions. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks in advance. In the interim, Dana made 17 calls to the residents on Sunday evening. I have eventually responded. Nathan, you must contact the bank. Inform them that it was authorized. I have become stranded here. Where is this location? Phoenix. I am residing with my pals. What is a Phoenix? That is not Dallas. Silence. Subsequently, it is intricate. I am confident that it is. Have you contacted the conference organizer? Who is your supervisor at Valerie? With a hint of irritation, I inquired, maintaining my composure. Please refrain from initiating the conversation. I am merely inquiring, as you are purportedly attending a professional event. Click. Strange developments occurred on Monday. My fraud monitoring systems detected a new occurrence. Dana had attempted to establish credit cards using our joint address. 3 applications were submitted within 2 days, all of which were rejected as a result of the ongoing fraud investigation. She was ensnared in a financial predicament that she had created for herself. She was unable to access funds, and her credit was frozen. Her travel options were restricted to the amount of currency she had on hand. Patricia contacted me on Tuesday and stated, Nathan, this is becoming increasingly chaotic. Your wife necessitates essential living expenses. She is free to utilize the joint checking account, I replied. $3,000 are currently unaccounted for. That is exceedingly unreasonable. Patricia's frustration was palpable as she hung up, stating, It's what we've always kept for emergencies. She considered $800,000 reasonable to transfer without discussion. On Wednesday, I received an unexpected phone call from Alan Murphy, Valerie's supervisor, who expressed his apprehensions regarding Dana's attendance at the Dallas conference. Has HR not recorded her registration? I contemplated dishonesty in order to safeguard her. However, that option was no longer available. Consequently, I replied, You would need to inquire with her, as she has not responded to my correspondence. Alan also mentioned that he had observed irregularities in her expense reports. My stomach plummeted. This was no longer merely a personal betrayal, but a professional one. I struggled to maintain my voice as I replied, I am unable to address that. Comprehended. However, if she contacts you, Alan's voice faltered, and he allowed the words to dwell in the air. The communication concluded with a finality as he stated, Never mind. Thanks, Nathan. The fraud investigation broadened. However, the true expansion was the realization that the world I had constructed, the systems I believed to be impenetrable, had not only safeguarded me, but had inadvertently exposed everything. I was directly contacted by bank representatives. Sir, we have discovered numerous unusual transactions between personal and corporate accounts in the past 18 months, all of which originated from the same IP address of the workstation. Dana had not merely embezzled our funds. She had been siphoning them from the company. My tranquil, well-organized existence was completely upended. Every foundation I had established in my marriage, including trust and fundamental honesty, appeared to be in jeopardy. However, I had not incited her to commit a crime. Rather, I had established systems that detected it as soon as it occurred. Patricia submitted an emergency motion for Dana's living expenses on Thursday morning. The judge scheduled a fast-paced hearing for Friday, and I meticulously prepared. My financial training was activated by the presence of printed bank statements, fraud alerts, and historical transfer patterns. As the saying goes, evidence speaks louder than accusations. Dana sent a text message the night before the hearing. I apologized for the situation, but I did not respond. My apologies for the attempted larceny were hollow. Friday arrived in a cold and gray weather. I encountered Dana for the first time since her conference departure at the courthouse. She appeared paler, as if she were smaller. She murmured in the hallway, "Why?" The judge examined the fraud reports during the 20-minute hearing. She was unable to provide an explanation for the following questions. Why did I notice? Why did the system function? Why did you attempt to seize everything? The automated nature of the holds was observed. It was determined that access to joint checking was adequate for the fundamental requirements of the investigation. Dana exited the premises without obtaining any items. Gregory Harris, an investigator from Eastern Financial Compliance, arrived at my office on the Monday following her capture by her snare. Mr. Bell, we have discovered evidence of systematic fraud involving your wife and multiple corporate accounts. Your expertise is required. I am not engaged. We are aware. Consequently, we require your assistance. Your personal fraud detection system identified patterns that we neglected. Gregory disclosed the extent of the situation during a coffee break in our conference room. Dana had not been acting independently. Thomas Wade, another Valerie marketing executive, had contributed to the establishment of a convoluted network of transactions. For nearly 2 years, they had been transferring corporate marketing budgets to personal accounts. Your system generated numerous alerts, which prompted us to conduct an audit of their entire division. The preliminary estimate is that the amount is $2 million, spread across multiple accounts. I was sick. My wife had been conducting a corporate embezzlement scheme, while I had been scrupulously monitoring our personal finances. The betrayal was more profound than a failed marriage. What is the next step? A federal investigation. Your personal accounts are currently being separated from the business fraud case. However, we require documentation that demonstrates your lack of knowledge or involvement. I submitted all necessary documentation, including personal financial statements and tax returns. The entire audit trail of my own tracking systems, including every piece of evidence that demonstrated I had constructed these protocols for the purpose of protection rather than to facilitate larceny. Dana texted me that evening. They are asserting that the allegations are federal. They believe that I am responsible for the theft of millions. I have not responded. What could I say? Tuesday brought additional revelations. Our realtor, James Everett, contacted us regarding peculiar inquiries. Someone has been inquiring about the possibility of selling your home. The buyer has been pre-approved for cash and the price is $300,000. They have indicated that they are representing you and your wife. Thomas Wade inquired about the original purchase price of $300,000 5 years ago. Dana and Thomas had not merely stolen money. They had been preparing to purchase our house at its previous value through a Confederate bidder. How did you come to know that name? The pieces suddenly fell into place. Flip it for the current market price of $500,000 and pocket the difference. This is a comprehensive exit strategy that is camouflaged as a real estate transaction. I met with Detective Sarah Flynn from the Richmond Financial Crimes Unit on Wednesday, and she corroborated the pattern. The perpetrators targeted properties owned by corporate employees. The entire scheme was uncovered when your system detected transfer anomalies, which created artificial market pressure to force below-market sales. The number of victims is 12 families, as of now. Your case is the most pristine evidence trail we possess. I reflected on the 12 families, individuals similar to myself, who placed their trust in you. Dana's emergency court order attempt to access the blocked funds was unsuccessful on Thursday. She meticulously planned and adhered to the rules, while others found ways to circumvent them. Her attorney requested a conference. William Brooks clarified that your client must prepare for a federal indictment, as the fraud investigation has expanded beyond marital assets. Patricia appeared agitated. Federal law prohibits wire fraud. Possible RICO charges if they establish an ongoing enterprise. Dana would be subject to substantial prison time, not just for larceny from me. Conspiracy. I forwarded all of my financial documentation to the U.S. Attorney's office that evening, including every fraud alert, in response to the systematic larceny from her employer and coordinated property fraud. Every monitoring log. Every piece of evidence that my systems had accumulated. Although I had not built those systems for revenge, they had revealed a crime that was significantly more significant than personal betrayal. Justice is not the result of wrath. Rather, it is the result of facts and patterns. From institutions that are intended to expose the truth. And occasionally, the truth has the potential to destroy more than just marriages. I testified before the grand jury on Thursday morning. My voice was devoid of emotion as I articulated the functionality of my financial monitoring systems. They were both clean and factual. The prosecutor appreciated the technical precision, which was achieved through the use of automated notifications that were activated at 3 a.m. when transfers exceeded predetermined thresholds. No human intervention was necessary. Did you ever access your wife's accounts without permission? No, the system was designed to detect anomalous patterns in our shared finances and only monitored joint accounts. 2 hours of testimony. Comprehensive information regarding each alert and security protocol. How the system distinguished between normal and suspicious activity. The potential sentence of Dana became more apparent. The U.S. Attorney's Office provided a list of charges. If convicted, I will be sentenced to a minimum of 20 years for multiple counts of wire fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement. Following my testimony, I proceeded directly to my office at Orbis Union. Michelle Chong, my team supervisor, had been answering calls throughout the week. Federal investigators requested a comprehensive system audit, which encompassed all systems that Dana had access to. We dedicated the entirety of Friday to the conversion of 3 years' worth of financial data, including each transaction and logon. Michelle said quietly, "None of us anticipated this. Nobody did." She was referring to the access points that Dana had employed to develop her scheme. This is the reason these systems are in place. The weekend brought an unexpected sense of tranquility. Federal investigators confiscated Dana and Thomas's laptops, phones, and external devices. Patricia contacted Nathan on Sunday afternoon, stating that Dana was interested in providing information regarding more significant financial offenses. The evidence was accruing on an hourly basis. She is willing to disclose names in the event that charges are reduced. However, this decision is between her and the prosecutors. They may inquire about marital reconciliation. I deliberated meticulously when selecting character witness material. I informed them that our marriage was terminated when she attempted to take our retirement. The remainder is mere statistics. On Monday, I received formal notification that the marital asset investigation had been finalized. All retirement funds would be refunded to their original accounts. The joint checking account would be divided equally with $3,000. This amount is equivalent to half of the amount that Dana believed she would require for her basic expenditures. Federal indictments were issued on Tuesday, and Dana, Thomas, and 5 other Valerie employees were charged with operating an organized financial fraud scheme throughout Virginia. This marked the conclusion of the matter. The bail hearing disclosed additional information. Dana would be incarcerated until trial, as flight risk necessitated no surety under federal regulations. Tuesday evening, she sent a text from jail, stating, "I never intended for it to escalate to this extent." I responded, "You never intended to be apprehended." On Wednesday, the U.S. Attorney proposed plea deals and reduced sentences in exchange for complete cooperation. Dana was faced with a decision: either testify against Thomas and his network or serve a 20-year sentence. That evening, I emptied her office in our residence. Boxes of marketing materials, files, and computer printouts. In the bottom drawer, I discovered a notebook containing real estate prices, property assessments, and a list of 12 addresses, including our house. She had planned meticulously, much like I would have, but for theft rather than security. The divorce proceedings resumed on Thursday afternoon, and the incarceration of your wife further complicated the situation. However, her new public defender explained that your wife is willing to relinquish all marital property in exchange for your testimony regarding her character. I have already provided testimony regarding the financial systems, fraud alerts, and my knowledge. However, she is now requesting personal testimony regarding your marriage. I have given this matter some thought. 22 years. The individual I believed to be familiar with. The deceptions I had never considered. William submitted documents that verified the provisions. I will provide testimony regarding my observations. The house was retained by me, and retirement accounts were reinstated. However, modest alimony was rejected. It would be rendered irrelevant by federal sentencing. On Friday, I received a handwritten letter. From prison, I became engrossed in the money and began to observe how effortless it was. Thomas asserted that the systems could be circumvented. I placed my trust in him rather than in you. I apologize. The letter was deposited in my file cabinet as evidence of admission, not absolution. The automated and impartial systems that I had constructed continued to function, detecting offenses during the dissolution of marriages. The federal trial lasted 17 days, and I provided testimony on 2 separate occasions. Initially regarding the financial systems, subsequently regarding my marriage. Did you ever harbor any reservations regarding your wife's professional pursuits? I had complete faith in her. The jury listened attentively. Dana sat smaller each day. When my fraud detection system captured her attempting to transfer our retirement funds without authorization, that trust came to an end. The designer clothes were substituted by standard jail attire in paler. On the 12th day, Thomas Wade broke down. The plea bargain was accepted, with full cooperation in exchange for a 7-year term instead of the standard 25. He provided a comprehensive explanation. A network of executives across 3 states. Property manipulation schemes. Marketing budget larceny. Dana served as the coordinator, overseeing the accounting and maintaining a comprehensive record of all transactions. It was ironic that she had acquired financial diligence from observing me, as she ensured that no anomalies were present in the company's statements. The prosecution played recorded communications, and Dana's voice was audible. She used it for criminal enterprise rather than protection. Nathan is overly preoccupied with his own systems and will never review my work accounts. This includes my wife of 22 years. She was relying on my adherence to boundaries to facilitate her criminal activities. The verdict was rendered on the 17th day, and she was found guilty. 12 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of conspiracy, and 2 counts of embezzlement. The sentencing was scheduled for 6 weeks later, and I exited the courthouse directly to my vehicle. There were no press conferences. Driven home without statements, the financial system had fulfilled its obligations, captured the fraud, provided evidence, and facilitated the administration of justice. I sold the house 2 months after Dana was sentenced to 18 years and Thomas to 9 years. But the punishment was not retribution. It was consequences. $500,000 after fees. This is more than sufficient to commence a new career in a different location. I retained my position at Orbis Union in Richmond, enhanced my fraud detection systems by incorporating features that are specifically designed to detect corporate embezzlement schemes. Michelle reported that these updates have the potential to save other companies millions. That is the crux of the matter. The divorce was concluded without any disputes. Dana's guilty confession resolved any disputes. I executed documents as she initiated her prison sentence. William contacted me to provide an update. I have purchased a smaller home in Norfolk. Your retirement funds are permanently safeguarded. Full restitution has been ordered. Simple. One story. No guest accommodations to generate clutter. I have begun teaching part-time at Old Dominion University, where I teach a financial fraud detection class twice weekly. I have no recollection of the 22 squandered years. Real cases. Real lessons. I advised my students to trust but verify. Dana's isolation deepens her remorse, as systems provide protection when individuals are unable to. She occasionally receives letters from incarceration. I refrained from responding, visiting, or expressing forgiveness. The systems functioned without emotion, not in a malicious manner, but in a clean manner. Mathematics revealing truth. Algorithms capturing patterns. I acquired the ability to live in a similar manner. 3 years later, the morning coffee ritual was established, and a simple breakfast was served. Market inspections were automated. Drives to work without any specific destinations to avoid. Valerie Marketing Group is occasionally encountered while conducting duties. The new building represents a new beginning. 12 families received restitution. They acquired the ability to trust with caution. Life continued, protected, systematic, orderly. The lesson was carried forward. Betrayal and theft occur. Systems persist. Occasionally, justice is achieved through equations rather than emotions. I have reconciled myself to this mathematical reality.